My Emile purchased iPhone 17 Pro Max for all grandkids except mine. She is adopted, she declared. So I severed ties. And she will never meet my new son. You know, I never thought I'd have to choose between my wife's own mother and my child's dignity. But that choice was made for me the day my mother-in-law looked my adopted daughter in the eye and told her she wasn't real family. And that, my friends, was just the beginning of the absolute mayhem that followed. This is the full story. I'm a 36-year-old guy from Finland, and I've been married to my amazing wife, Arya, for 9 incredible years. She's 35. Our daughter, Ella, is 8. We adopted her when she was 9 months old, after years of heartbreaking infertility issues that honestly, I don't even want to get into right now. That's not the real story here. Now, Audrey, Arya's mother, well, she's always been that kind of person. You know the type, right? The one who believes her opinion is the only one that matters. The one who shows up at your house unannounced and starts rearranging your kitchen cabinets because, in her infinite wisdom, they'd be more efficient that way. Or the kind who, after her own children turned out to be, let's just say, less than perfect, suddenly becomes an uninvited parenting expert. Audrey has 3 kids. Arya is the oldest and, by far the most successful. She bought her own house at 30. She's a civil engineer pulling down a 6-figure salary and honestly, she just has her life completely together. Then there's Mark, Arya's 32-year-old brother. He's a decent guy, I guess, but nothing particularly noteworthy. And finally, the youngest is Michelle, Arya's 28-year-old sister, who works part-time at a salon while her husband covers most of their bills. And this is where things start to get really, really messy. Mark has 2 kids, ages 10 and 12. Michelle has one, a 7-year-old. And at every single family get-together, Audrey just could not stop talking about her biological children, all born from flawless, textbook pregnancies. Seriously, when Arya and I first started the adoption process, Audrey's true feelings began to seep out. Little remarks here and there, nothing blatant enough to call her out on directly. Things like, "Are you sure about this? What if the biological parents come back?" Or the classic, sometimes these fertility issues just resolve themselves if you just relax and stop trying so hard. That second one particularly annoyed Arya. We had been trying for 6 years. 6 years of frustration, endless doctor visits, invasive procedures, and a growing mountain of debt from ineffective treatments. And Audrey's brilliant medical advice was simply to unwind. As if every well-meaning aunt and distant cousin hadn't already told us that. Finally, we were matched with Ella. We were absolutely ecstatic. This adorable 9-month-old, with the cutest smile you've ever seen and these huge, beautiful brown eyes. The adoption agency called us on a Tuesday. That Friday, we met her. And by the next month, she was ours. When we brought Ella home, Arya cried nonstop for almost an hour. Tears of pure, unadulterated joy. The kind of tears that make you realize, in the best way possible, that your life has just changed forever. And Audrey's response when she met baby Ella? "Oh, she's lovely. Will you keep her original name or change it?" Not a grandmotherly "she's beautiful" or a warm "congratulations." Just this strange, almost professional inquiry about her name, as if we were adopting a puppy. In honor of my wife, we named her Ella Rebecca. Audrey didn't say a single word about that either. For the next 9 years, everyone in the family noticed Audrey's strange emotional distance toward Ella, but no one wanted to confront it. She'd attend Ella's birthday parties, but spend the entire time swooning over Michelle's or Mark's kids. She'd buy Christmas presents for all the grandchildren, but Ella's gifts were consistently, noticeably, less incredible, less thoughtful. One year, Mark's oldest got an expensive, remote control car, probably $180. His younger child received a tablet. Michelle's child got a huge set of art supplies. Ella received a $25 Target gift card. Arya noticed. I noticed. And when Ella was old enough, around 6, and started comparing her gifts to her cousins, she noticed too. But what were we supposed to do? Point the finger at a grandparent for not showing our child enough love? No one wants to have that conversation. We tried to deal with it indirectly. Arya would mention how much Ella loved spending time with Grandma Audrey and suggest they spend more one-on-one time together. Audrey would enthusiastically agree, but then never follow through. She'd take Michelle's child for ice cream or Mark's kids to the zoo, but she never, ever had time for Ella. Then, 3 weeks ago, during what was supposed to be a pleasant family dinner at Audrey's house, the breaking point finally arrived. All 3 of Audrey's children, their spouses, and all of their grandchildren had been invited. These dinners happened about once a month, usually for a special occasion, or just because Audrey loved having everyone together to remind herself that she had successfully reproduced. We arrived around 5 p.m. on a Saturday. The other families were already there. The kids played in the backyard while the adults gathered in the kitchen. A typical, normal scene. About 20 minutes after we got there, Audrey called all the grandchildren into the living room. She had this huge smile on her face, like she was about to announce she'd won the lottery. "I have something special for my precious grandchildren," she chirped, reaching under the couch to pull out a shopping bag. One by one, she handed out boxes. iPhone 17 Pro Max packaging. The latest model. These phones cost roughly $1,200 each. They had just been released. Mark's 2 children each received one. Even Michelle's 7-year-old, who had absolutely no business owning a $1,200 phone, got one. Ella was bouncing up and down with excitement, seeing her cousins get these amazing gifts. She just knew she was next. After giving Michelle's 7-year-old the final phone, Audrey turned to the adults and started discussing the phone plans she had set up for each device. Ella just stood there, perplexed. She was 8 years old. It was hard for her to grasp what was happening. She looked at Audrey, then at Arya, then at me. "Grandma Audrey," Ella whispered, her voice tiny. "Did you forget mine?" The room went completely silent. Every adult paused mid-sentence. Suddenly, Mark and Michelle were utterly fascinated by their shoes. I felt my blood pressure rising. Audrey cast a fake, contrite grin down at Ella. "Oh, sweetheart. These are for my grandchildren. You understand, right?" My wife's face turned white as she processed what her mother had just said in front of everyone. I literally saw the color drain from her cheeks. "Mom," Arya whispered, her voice trembling. Audrey waved her hand dismissively. "Ella is your grandchild." She said it so casually. "You know what I mean, Arya. These are for my real grandchildren, the ones who are actually family." It wasn't like she was telling an 8-year-old that she wasn't truly a member of the family. It sounded more like she was just explaining why she'd picked chocolate ice cream over vanilla. Ella started crying, but it wasn't the kind of crying kids do when they don't get their way. No, this was the kind of tears that come from real emotional pain. The heartbroken, devastated kind. She sobbed and buried her face in Arya's leg. Arya immediately picked her up and gave her mother a look I had never seen before. It was a terrible sight, a mixture of deep hurt and pure rage. "We're leaving," Arya stated, blunt and cold. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Audrey said. "She'll understand when she's older. This is about blood family, Arya. You can't expect me to treat an adopted child the same as my real grandchildren." I remained silent. I didn't have to say anything. Without another word, I simply took Arya's hand, grabbed the diaper bag with Ella's things, and we walked out. Michelle and Mark stayed silent. Their spouses stayed silent, oblivious that their grandmother had just inflicted psychological harm on their cousin. They all just stood there and watched us go, while their children fiddled with their brand new phones. The drive home was awful. Arya cried the whole way. Ella sobbed herself to sleep in her car seat. I kept replaying that scene in my mind, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My real grandchildren. I couldn't stop thinking about it. For 9 years, Ella had been a member of this family. 9 years of family dinners, holidays, birthday celebrations. For 9 years, Audrey had let Ella call her grandma, asked when she might have sleepovers at her house like her cousins did, and accepted Ella's drawings. And with a single, casual statement, Audrey had made it devastatingly clear that none of that mattered to her. Ella would never be true family. She was only the child that Arya and I brought home because we couldn't produce biological children. That evening, After we'd managed to calm Ella down and get her into bed, Arya and I had a long, painful discussion about what to do next. "I can't believe she did that," Arya kept saying, pacing our bedroom. "I can't believe my own mother would hurt Ella like that, in front of everyone, in front of the other kids." "What do you want to do?" I asked her. Arya said, "I want to never speak to her again, right away." Then she stopped. "But I don't know if I can actually do that. She's my mom, and Mark and Michelle are still going to those family dinners. And Ella is going to wonder why her cousins get to see Grandma, but she doesn't. The thing about my wife is this. She is one of those individuals who consistently sees the best in everyone, even if they don't deserve it. For 9 years, she had been rationalizing Audrey's treatment of Ella, telling herself that things would improve, that Audrey just needed time to get used to having an adopted grandchild. But I had had enough of making excuses. "Arya," I said very cautiously, "your mother just told our daughter that she's not really family. In front of everyone, she bought $1,000 phones for kids who don't even need them and deliberately excluded Ella because she's adopted. That's not something you come back from." "I know," she said quietly. "I know, but what am I supposed to do? Cut off my own mother? If she can't treat our daughter with basic human decency?" I finished. "Yeah, that's exactly what you do." We were up until 3 in the morning discussing it. Arya wavered between wanting to cut Audrey off entirely and wanting to give her another chance, a chance to make amends. I knew what would happen if we gave her that opportunity. Audrey would say something like, "I'm sorry you were upset," but she would never really own up to her mistakes. She would then expect everything to return to normal, and we'd be right back where we started. By the time we finally went to bed, Arya had come to a difficult conclusion. We needed to establish some firm boundaries. No more family gatherings at Audrey's house. No more unsupervised time with Ella. And Audrey needed to know exactly why those boundaries were being established. Audrey called the following morning. Arya remained silent. An hour later, she called again. Still no response. Then the text started coming. First from Audrey, then from Mark and Michelle. Every variation of "you're overreacting," and "she didn't mean it that way," and "family is important," and "don't throw it away over a misunderstanding." As if it were even possible to misunderstand. Arya finally texted Audrey back. Her message was short and powerful. "These are for my real grandchildren. What you said to Ella was cruel and unacceptable. Until you can apologize to her directly and acknowledge that she is your grandchild, your real grandchild, we won't be attending any more family events." 10 minutes later, Audrey responded, "I will not be apologizing for speaking the truth. She's not my biological grandchild, and everyone knows it. You're being ridiculous and teaching her to be entitled." That was it. The last nail in the coffin of Audrey's relationship with our family. I saw Arya's face tighten in a way I had never seen before when she showed me the text. This was the lady who had spent 9 years attempting to win her mother's approval, who had gone to great lengths to meet Audrey's tastes and opinions, who had offered justifications for years of covert partiality. And Audrey had ruined all of that in a single text message. "We're done," Arya said, her voice shaking but firm. "I'm done. She'll never meet our next child. She'll never be alone with Ella again, and I'm not going to any family events if she's there." We had decided we were done with adoption, so I inquired, perplexed, "What next, child?" "We're going to adopt again," Arya firmly declared. "Maybe 2 more kids if we can afford it, and Audrey will never meet any of them. She wants real grandchildren? Fine, she can focus on the ones she has. Mine will never have to feel that rejection." In that instant, I loved my wife more than I had in years. Over the next week, we ignored every call and message from Audrey's side of the family. Mark attempted to mediate the situation, proposing that we all get together and have an adult conversation. Michelle sent this lengthy letter of shame about how family is forever and that we cannot allow one argument to destroy us all. Arya's answer to both of them was straightforward. "Your mother told my daughter she's not real family and bought expensive gifts for your kids while deliberately excluding mine. If you think that's acceptable behavior, then we don't have anything to talk about." They didn't react to that. 2 weeks after the iPhone incident, We received an invitation to Mark's oldest child's birthday celebration, hosted at Audrey's house. As if nothing had occurred, for the first time since we had left, Arya called Mark. "Is Mom going to be at the party?" she asked. "Well, yeah, it's at her house," Mark said, as if it were obvious. "Then we won't be there." "Come on, Arya. You can't keep avoiding her forever. Just apologize and move on." Arya's voice became frigid. "Apologize?" she asked. "Apologize for what, exactly? For making such a big deal out of nothing? Mom feels bad about the whole phone thing. If she feels bad, she can call Ella and apologize to her directly. Until then, we're not coming to any events where she'll be present." "You're being unreasonable," Mark retorted. "The kids miss each other." "Then you're welcome to bring them to our house anytime," Arya shot back, "but I'm not exposing Ella to someone who thinks she's not real family." Mark ended the call. Without us, the birthday celebration came and went. Instead, it was the three of us that took Ella to an amusement park that day. She enjoyed eating expensive theme park food and riding the roller coasters. She never once inquired about her cousins. At that point, Audrey started acting shady. She began sharing on social media how devastated she was that certain family members were choosing to harbor resentment rather than forgiving and moving on, and how her own daughter was silently punishing her for a minor error. How terrible it was for her to be cut off from her grandchildren's life, and how essential family is. "Praying for peace," she said in one of her posts. "When you raise your children with love and they turn around and take your grandchildren away over a misunderstanding, it breaks your heart." Arya's friends began emailing her screenshots of these posts, inquiring about what had transpired. Some of them took Audrey's side, arguing that Arya had to forgive her mother and be the bigger person. Others wrote supportive notes as soon as they understood. Those that supported Audrey were given a thorough account of what had truly transpired. It was intentional cruelty to an 8-year-old child, not a miscommunication or a little error. After that, the majority of them soon altered their minds. Audrey's social media effort, however, did have an impact. Members of the extended family, people Audrey hardly ever had regular conversations with, Arya's aunts, uncles, cousins, even the siblings of her late father, began attempting to mediate. They all received the same message from Arya. Audrey informed Ella that she was not her biological granddaughter while giving all the other grandchildren pricey presents. "We'll talk about mending our connection if she expresses her regret to Ella and admits her mistake. We are shielding our daughter from emotional assault till then." After that, the majority of them gave up on mediating. Arya quickly shot down the "but she's your mother" guilt trip that some of the elder relatives attempted. Being someone's mother doesn't give you the right to hurt their children, she told her Aunt Margaret over a particularly contentious phone chat. "If my own mother can't treat my daughter with basic respect, then she doesn't get access to her. It's that simple." 3 weeks after the incident, Audrey unexpectedly came up to our place. Ella was watching cartoons in the living room on a Saturday morning as Arya and I prepared brunch. We were anticipating a grocery delivery, so I went to answer the doorbell without looking through the peephole. Instead, I saw Audrey standing on our porch, holding a wrapped gift, dressed in her finest church attire, as if she were going to a funeral. "I'd like to speak with Arya," she remarked formally. "She doesn't want to talk to you," I said, and started to shut the door. "This is between me and my daughter. You have no right to keep us apart. Actually, I have every right to decide who comes into my house, and you're not welcome here." Audrey's calm facade shattered a little. "I'm her mother," she insisted. "And you told our daughter she's not real family," I countered. "So, no, you don't get to show up here and demand anything." "I brought a gift for Ella, an apology gift." "She doesn't want your gifts. You couldn't even treat her the way the rest of your grandchildren were treated." Just then, Arya heard the rising voices and came up behind me. I watched something die in her eyes as she turned to face her mother standing on our porch. That final glimmer of optimism that Audrey would somehow put everything right. "What do you want, Mom?" Arya asked bluntly. "I came to apologize," Audrey remarked, displaying the wrapped present. "I bought Ella an iPhone, too. I realized I made a mistake, and I want to make it right." The problem with too little, too late apologies is this. They demonstrate that the individual is aware of their mistakes and only cares about correcting them when they are subject to repercussions. You think you can show up here with a phone and everything's fine? Arya replied, I'm trying to make amends. Audrey said defensively, Isn't that what you wanted? From the beginning, I wanted you to treat my daughter as your granddaughter. Arya shot back. I didn't want you to tell an 8-year-old that she isn't true family. Nor did I want you to purposefully leave her out of a family gift in front of everyone. I didn't say that. Audrey objected. Yes, you did. You said the phones were for your real grandchildren. Everyone heard you. I misspoke. I meant my other grandchildren. It came out wrong.
No, Mom.
What you said was precisely what you meant. The less expensive Christmas presents, the missed birthdays, and the fact that you take Mark's and Michelle's children on special outings, but never invite Ella, are all examples of how you've been treating Ella differently from the day we adopted her. I'm done making excuses for you. I've been doing it for 9 years. Audrey's cheeks flushed. I've tried with that child. It's not my fault we don't have a connection. That child has a name. I interjected. And the reason you don't have a connection is because you've never tried. You decided the day we adopted her that she wasn't really your grandchild, and you've treated her accordingly. She's not my blood, Audrey abruptly said, abandoning her courteous demeanor. I'm sorry, but that matters. It matters to me. I can't help how I feel. Then we can't help how we feel about you being in our lives, Arya muttered. She closed the door. Goodbye, Mom. For an additional 7 minutes, Audrey stood on our porch, pounding and yelling Arya's name until she eventually departed. We disregarded her. Arya's phone was inundated with texts that afternoon from Mark and Michelle, who were upset that we had rejected Audrey when she attempted to apologize. They said that by punishing their mother for a sincere error and destroying the family, we were being obstinate and unkind. Arya was tough, yet measured, in her answer to the family group chat. This isn't about harboring resentment. Rather, it's about shielding our daughter from someone who has made it very clear that she will never accept her as true family. Mom came here today not to truly apologize, but to try to buy her way back into our lives with a gift. She told me straight out that she can't connect with Ella because she's not her blood. She called her that child, instead of using her name. You are free to keep up your friendship with Ella and us, but we will not be going to any occasions where Mom is present, and she is not allowed in our house. This is ridiculous. She's your mother, Mark retorted. You're being so dramatic over a phone, Michelle continued. Arya gave one last response. This isn't about a phone. This is about 9 years of favoritism and emotional neglect toward my daughter, culminating in her being told she's not real family. If you can't understand why that's unacceptable, then we don't have anything else to discuss. Then she turned off the group chat. A new normal was established during the course of the following month. On social media, Audrey persisted in her martyrdom campaign, portraying herself as the victim of an unappreciative daughter who had taken away her grandkids due to a single error. Her version was accepted by some. The majority of those who were aware of the truth didn't. After a couple of weeks, Mark and Michelle gave up on mediating. They kept bringing their children to Audrey's family dinners and sharing joyful family pictures that blatantly left out Arya's family. I would observe Arya's emotional processing after she saw these pictures. She was hurt that her siblings preferred to stand behind their mother. We were relieved that we were no longer exposing Ella to that setting. Sorrow at losing the family she had known as a child. One evening, after seeing a picture of Audrey at a restaurant with all of the grandchildren but Ella, she asked me, "Do you think I did the right thing?" "Absolutely," I answered, without thinking twice. "You protected our daughter from someone who was hurting her. That's exactly what a good parent does." But what if Ella grows up and resents me for keeping her from her grandmother? If she grows up and we explain that we kept her away from someone who told her she wasn't real family, who treated her worse than her cousins, who couldn't love her the way she deserved, she's going to thank you. Arya gave a nod. However, it was evident to me that she continued to feel guilty over severing ties with her own mother. About 7 weeks after the iPhone incident, the true turning moment occurred. After years of knowing Audrey through different social circles, Arya's friend Grace called with some intriguing news. It seems that Audrey had been informing members of her religious group that Arya had taken Ella in order to harm her. That Arya wanted to punish Audrey for not being supportive enough during the adoption process, which is why we decided on adoption rather than continuing reproductive procedures. That we were waging a fictitious family war with Ella as a weapon. The story was plainly crazy, but Audrey was spreading it to everyone who would listen, portraying herself as the victim of our ruthless manipulation, while at the same time refusing to admit that it could have been wrong to tell a child she wasn't true family. After hearing this at a church potluck, Grace called Arya right away to let her know that Audrey was spreading these rumors. She had even claimed that rather than because Audrey had done anything wrong, we were keeping Ella away from her biological grandma out of resentment. The story has been entirely revised by her, Grace responded. Everyone at church thinks you're this horrible daughter who adopted a child just to exclude your mother from her life. After thanking Grace for the heads up, Arya sat silently for a while, taking in this new information. It's wild. She's never going to admit she was wrong, Arya replied at last. She's never going to apologize to Ella. She's never going to see her as a real grandchild. This is who she is. Yeah, I said. She is that person? Are you okay with the fact that she is no longer in our lives and that we are truly done? After giving it some thought, Arya nodded. Yes, she said. I believe I am. It aches, but I don't mind, because Ella deserves better than to be treated like a second-class citizen because we adopted her. We're done because, to be honest, I deserve better, too. I've spent my entire life trying to live up to my mother's unachievable standards and make her proud, but she still decided to harm my child. Their relationship ended with that talk, not with a dramatic walkout, a closed door, or a blocked phone call. This silent acknowledgement that Audrey would never be Ella's ideal grandmother. And since we would shield Ella from that letdown, it was okay. 2 months following the iPhone event, we were able to return to our regular lifestyles. After a few weeks, Ella stopped inquiring about Grandma Audrey, and we continued to engage in our own family activities. We would bring her school classmates home for playdates, take her to the park, and host movie evenings. She was content. What was important was that Arya continued to have a tense relationship with Mark and Michelle. The easy sibling relationship they had previously shared was gone, but they would occasionally text each other about unrelated subjects. Arya couldn't forgive them both because they hadn't defended Ella when it counted. We also began to seriously consider re-expanding our family through adoption during this period. We had always discussed the possibility of having 2 children, as Arya had indicated that first evening. However, Arya was adamant about adopting once more following the Audrey incident. I want Ella to have a sibling who understands what it's like to be adopted, she said. Someone who gets it. And I want Audrey to know that we're building our own family without her. We began the process of adopting a second kid. Because we had been through it before, we were considerably more confident in our abilities this time. For months after she had cut off contact with Audrey, Michelle called Arya. She was on the verge of not responding when something prompted her to do so. Mom's in the hospital, Michelle said, without hesitation. She had a heart attack. Arya's face turned white. This was still her mother, in spite of everything. Is she okay? Inquired Arya. She's stable. They did surgery, but Finn, she's been asking for you. She wants to see you. I could see Arya's internal conflict as she looked at me. There was a part of her that wanted to run to the hospital. The part that was Ella's mother, the part that had seen our daughter cry when she was told she wasn't really family, that part remained strong. I need to think about it, Arya replied. I'll call you back. We had a conversation after she hung up. It was unclear if Audrey's behavior had changed as a result of this medical emergency, or if it had only momentarily eclipsed the effects she had been dealing with. If you visit her at the hospital, she's going to think everything's forgiven, I said. She's going to expect things to go back to normal. I know, Arya said. But what if she dies and I never talk to her again? What if this is my last chance? Your last chance to do what? Hear her not apologize again? Watch her not acknowledge what she did to Ella? You've given her so many chances already. An hour later, Arya gave Michelle another call. Ella isn't coming, she stated. So, I'll visit the hospital, but it doesn't imply we're making amends. Nothing has changed regarding our boundaries, but I still want to make sure she's all right. Fine, Michelle responded with a sigh of relief. Just come. That night, Arya visited the hospital. Ella was content, unaware of the drama unfolding at the medical facility across town, so I stayed at home with her. 3 hours later, Arya arrived home looking worn out. How is she? I inquired. Stable. Recovery will take a few weeks, but she'll be fine. Arya kicked off her shoes and slumped on the couch. She inquired about Ella. She said she missed her granddaughter and wanted to see her. What did she say? I informed her that Ella wasn't present. She became angry and claimed that I was denying her grandchildren when she had a chance to pass away. Her grandchildren in the plural? Yeah, that's what I said too. I questioned whether Ella was now her grandchild. She became upset and said she had never stated that, and that I was exaggerating the situation, after I had been telling her for months that she wasn't actually family. Of course she did. I told her I didn't want to revisit the past. All I wanted to do was check on her. She attempted to make me feel horrible about being a bad daughter, leaving her when she most needed me, and all the typical things. I informed her that I was heading out, and that she could give me a call when she was prepared to truly apologize to Ella. After that, I departed. How do you feel? Arya considered it. Relieved. Honestly, I thought maybe the heart attack would have changed something. Made her realize life's too short to die on this hill. However, she is the same. I can now be certain that we made the proper decision. A week later, Audrey was discharged from the hospital. Since she was still having trouble climbing stairs, she temporarily moved into Mark's single-story home while she recovered. During this period, Mark tried one more time to encourage Arya to reconcile with their mother. He called and left a lengthy message about how everyone was being harmed by this resentment, how family was vital, and how Audrey was growing older. Arya replied by text message. We're done until Mom truly apologizes to Ella and promises to treat her like the rest of her grandchildren. You may accept it or not. It's not a grudge. It's a boundary. Mom damaged my daughter and won't own it. However, this is no longer debatable. Mark remained silent. 6 months after the iPhone incident, Arya and I finished the home study for our second adoption. After receiving approval, we were added to the child match waiting list. We kept it a secret from Arya's relatives. Not Michelle, not Mark, and most definitely not Audrey. They had given up their right to participate in these special times, and this was a decision made by our family. When we received clearance, Arya's friends threw her a little party, and Ella was delighted about possibly being a big sister. That was all the assistance we required. 7 months later, Audrey wrote a letter to our home. An actual handwritten letter, as if she were someone's grandmother in a historical drama rather than a text or email. Audrey sent a 3-page letter outlining her thoughts on everything that had transpired. How Arya's overreaction had caught her off guard. How she had been turned down when she tried to apologize. How family members ought to forgive one another. How she didn't want to pass away with this divide between them as she grew older. She never once expressed regret for referring to Ella as not real family. She never once acknowledged the suffering she had inflicted. She never once accepted true accountability for her deeds. After reading the letter, Arya placed it in a drawer without answering. All she said was that Audrey still didn't understand. 8 months after the iPhone incident, we were paired with our second kid, Cooper, a 4-year-old boy who had been in foster care when his parents' rights were terminated. Despite having a difficult beginning to life, he was said to be kind and strong. When we first met him 3 weeks later, it was obvious that he was destined to be our son. He was first reserved and cautious, but he soon warmed up to Ella. Within an hour of meeting, they were playing together. Since Cooper was already in state custody, his adoption procedure proceeded more quickly than Ella's. He moved in with us full-time after 2 months, and the finalization was set for a month later. What a wonderful big sister Ella was. She showed Cooper about the house, helped him get settled, and was incredibly kind when he had rough days or battled nightmares from his traumatic history. The majority of Arya's extended family was not informed of the adoption, nor was it publicized on social media. It wasn't exactly a secret. We just weren't sharing our life events with those who had shown themselves to be unsupportive. Arya's close friends were aware of us and joined us in celebrating. Cooper was welcomed right away by my family, who were ecstatic. That was sufficient. A month or so after Cooper moved in with us, Audrey learned about it via a mutual acquaintance who had seen us out with both children. Over the course of one evening, she made several calls to Arya's phone before she answered. Audrey's voice was harsh with outrage as she asked, "You adopted another child and didn't tell me." Arya gently questioned, "Why would I tell you? You made it very clear that adopted grandchildren aren't real family to you." "That's not what I said. You have 8 months to make amends and apologize to Ella for what you said." "No, you no longer learn about our family because you have spent that time rewriting history and playing the victim. I have a right to know my grandchildren." "No, you don't. You should concentrate on your current grandchildren, Mark's children, Michelle's children, and the ones you see as true family. You cannot deny me access to my grandchildren. They're not your grandchildren, Mom. You made that clear. Goodbye." Arya blocked Audrey's number and hung up. When Audrey learned about Cooper, the consequences quickly became apparent. She increased the intensity of her social media campaign once more, posting about how she had been cut off from her grandchildren's lives and had not even been informed about their new family members. There were many who pitied her. The majority of those who were aware of the true tale were able to identify the manipulation. Mark called Arya to scold her for not telling their mother about the adoption. Arya reminded him that by treating adoptive grandkids as inferior, their mother had made a fool of herself. Michelle sent a lengthy text message explaining that Audrey was becoming older and would not be there forever, that family members should forgive and move on, and that harboring resentment only affected Arya. Any further attempts at guilt-tripping were stopped by Arya's response. "I blame Audrey, not me, for choosing her pride over her relationship with my family when she had the option to treat Ella with basic respect if she wanted to be a part of our life. Additionally, I won't subject Cooper to the same rejection and partiality that Ella went through. Both of them deserve better." Today, our family of 4 is doing well about a year after the iPhone tragedy. 3 months ago, Cooper's adoption was completed. He's adapted to his new life quite well, and we're thrilled to see him and Ella grow up as siblings. Holidays are observed with Arya's close pals and my side of the family. We establish our own customs and go on family vacations. The drama, partiality, and ongoing emotional control that accompanied keeping up a connection with Audrey are not missed. Maybe once a month, Arya and Mark have quick, insignificant chats about unimportant topics. Since the Cooper adoption announcement, she hasn't spoken to Michelle at all. As the martyred grandma, who was brutally cut off by her unappreciative daughter, Audrey maintains her social media presence. Some individuals accept her account of what happened. The majority of those in close proximity to the situation are more knowledgeable. 8-year-old Ella occasionally inquires about Grandma Audrey, but she doesn't appear to be troubled by her departure. My family and Arya's chosen circle of acquaintances provide her with a large number of grandparents. She never needs to question whether she is truly family because she is content and cherished. And that, in the end, is all that truly matters.